I have a fantastic segment to play for you from Rachel Maddow's show last night on MSNBC, where she goes through some brutal details about the company that Donald Trump keeps, who he surrounds himself with, but also the general genre definitely applies to Trump. That'll make sense when you watch the clip. Then we'll go through some other stuff relating to Trump afterwards. And before playing the Rachel Maddow clip, let me fill you in on the context. So Paul Manafort was once, as you might remember, Trump's campaign manager, then later went to prison. He's now looking to get back in, and it's looking like he will get back into the Trump orbit, despite his record. Here's this from the Washington Post. Former President Donald Trump is expected to enlist Paul Manafort, the former campaign manager he pardoned, as a campaign advisor later this year, according to 4 people familiar with the talks. And the Washington Post article explains that he'll likely take a role in the convention. Then it continues, Manafort worked for Trump in 2016 before being ousted and later convicted of tax and bank fraud felonies as part of Robert S. Mueller III's investigation into Russian interference in the 2016 elections. He served time in prison before receiving a pardon in the final days of Trump's time in office. Manafort, just want to make sure you're fully refreshed on this situation since it's been a while, was found guilty of hiding millions he made lobbying on behalf of pro-Russian Ukrainian politicians in overseas bank accounts, then falsifying his finances to get loans when his patrons lost power. He was originally sentenced to about 4 years in prison, but was released early to home confinement due to the coronavirus before he was pardoned by Trump. So worked for Trump, went to prison, was pardoned by Trump. With that context in mind, Rachel Maddow wanted to remind everyone last night of just how common criminality is around Trump. And while you watch this clip, please subscribe to this channel by just clicking the subscribe button. So important to help us grow the show. Take a look.
In any other world, the president bringing back a former campaign chairman who had just gotten out of prison, bringing him back again after he got out of prison would be crazy pants. But in Trump Republican politics, hey, I mean, get in line. It wasn't just Trump's campaign chairman who went to prison. Trump's campaign vice chairman, Rick Gates, was also charged and convicted and sentenced to prison. Trump advisor and campaign aide Roger Stone was charged and convicted and sentenced to prison. Trump White House National Security Advisor Michael Flynn was charged and convicted. Trump's campaign advisor George Papadopoulos was charged and convicted and sentenced to prison. The Trump Organization's CFO Alan Weisselberg was charged and convicted and sentenced to prison. Trump's chief strategist Steve Bannon was charged with wire fraud and money laundering. He's been sentenced to prison pending appeal for defying a subpoena. Trump's business was itself found guilty of tax fraud. 2 Trump lawyers, Kenneth Chesbrough and Sidney Powell, have pled guilty to election-related crimes. And now tomorrow, another one of Trump's White House advisors, Peter Navarro, is due to report to start serving his sentence in federal prison. So it's not like Manafort's the only one in stripes, right? That's how these guys roll. You sign up for the Trump campaign, they ask you what size should they make your jumpsuit.
What size should they make your jumpsuit? Brutal, but spot on. Whether it be the Mueller investigation, the Bannon wire fraud, the Georgia case, or anything else, Trump has surrounded himself with people that have gone on to be convicted felons. And do you know who's next on that list? Potentially Donald Trump. Now, by the way, I've been meaning to make a point about the Mueller investigation for some time now. A lot of people seem super confused about it. There's this myth that the Mueller investigation yielded no damning evidence, or that Trump's campaign was completely cleared and it was all a hoax or fabricated. Of course, you'd expect that from the Trumpies, but you even have centrist and some left-wing sentiment to that effect and about this investigation that's just way off. So, of course, there were people predicting that Mueller would uncover some direct conspiracy between Trump and Putin or something to interfere in the 2016 election. And that was not uncovered. We'll be clear about that. Evidence matters. Evidence was not brought forward of that. But a whole heck of a lot was uncovered. Time magazine fact-checked this as follows. Mueller spent almost 200 pages in his report describing numerous links between the Russian government and the Trump campaign. He found that a Russian entity carried out a social media campaign that favored presidential candidate Donald J. Trump and disparaged presidential campaign Hillary Clinton. He also found that a Russian intelligence service conducted computer intrusion operations against the Clinton campaign and then released stolen documents. while Mueller was unable to establish a conspiracy between members of the Trump campaign and the Russians involved in this activity, he made it clear the statement that the investigation did not establish particular facts does not mean there was no evidence of those facts. So because, unlike how Republicans conduct investigations apparently, see the Biden probe, actual investigators care about actual evidence and overwhelming evidence, proof at that. Mueller was clear on what he could confirm evidentially and what there may have been some evidence on, but not enough to make an authoritative statement on, much less pursue prosecution, of course. And that's how investigations work. But my goodness, as you just read, some bunker stuff was revealed. Not to mention the numerous guilty pleas and convictions that came of this investigation. So indeed, a concerted conspiracy between Trump and Russia was not proven. And it is important to be clear on what was and wasn't uncovered. Like I said, evidence matters. Republicans, take note. But an attempt to sway the election through multiple efforts by Russia, and then a bunch of inappropriate and suspicious links between Trump's campaign and Russian operatives, that was uncovered. Here's a little bit more on that from the Washington Post. In a report issued in 2020, the Senate bipartisan committee that investigated Russian interference found that Manafort's presence on the campaign and proximity to Trump created opportunities for Russian intelligence services to exert influence over and acquire confidential information on the Trump campaign. So let's dispel what this ridiculous belief that Russiagate, Russia was all a hoax. Now, here is Van Jones on CNN mocking Republicans for potentially bringing Manafort back into the fold.
Does it matter what capacity Paul Manafort is brought back on in, given, his history?
I just think Trump is not being fair to the new generation of crooks, the new generation of fraudsters, the new generation of traitors. How come he keeps going back to this old fraudster, this old traitor, this old liar? What about the young liars who are coming up, who want to sell American secrets, who want to lie to judges? They deserve a chance. I think it's an outrage. If I were a young crook, if I were a young traitor, I would think Donald Trump is not giving me an opportunity. Paul Manafort has already hurt the country enough. Let other fraudsters hurt the country, Donald Trump.
And then if you think it ends here, it doesn't. Peter Navarro, a former Trump advisor, is also heading to prison. Oh my goodness, for contempt of Congress. He defied a subpoena issued to him by the January 6th Select Committee as they investigated the attempts, of course, to block the peaceful transfer of power.
A last-minute appeal to the Supreme Court failed, and now a prominent member of Donald Trump's inner circle is going to prison.
Ron has the details on this. Who are we talking about, Ron?
Well, we're talking about one-time presidential advisor Peter Navarro. He just spoke to the media prior to entering prison to begin his sentence. Navarro had hoped he could stay out of prison while he appeals his contempt of Congress conviction. But late yesterday, the Chief Justice, John Roberts, ruled against him. So today, Navarro begins his 4 months prison sentence at a facility in Miami.
So let me just include in this segment the reminder that the Republican Party, I guess, still claims to be, hilariously, and for a long time really did claim to be the party of law and order, baby. Law and order. And now you heard that long list of Trump allies who are convicted felons or have been criminally charged. And Trump's history with the law, especially as of late, 4 indictments, 91 felony counts. And this is the party proclaiming to be for law and order. It's ridiculous. And it's yet another reminder of these principles. They sound great rhetorically, and that's why they're espoused, but they're not actually an honest reflection of oftentimes the individuals espousing them, because the principle of law and order, respecting the justice system, etc., has just crumbled the second Trump and those around him were revealed to be a mess legally. By the way, here's a clip from a little while back that went super viral that was pretty funny, of Peter Navarro after a judge ruled against his ability to assert executive privilege before his trial. And he wasn't happy, especially with the protester behind him holding a sign.
Where's the CNN? CNN here? Is CNN here? Anybody want to own up to that? Here's the problem.
Hero.
Who's this? Come on.
Bro,
Get me out.
you're already facing charges.
Yeah, I get it.
Go ahead and commit another crime.
So,
I've been here this whole time. Situational.
yes, okay.
Why? Am I right?
Yeah, so that didn't go well. And then just to remind you, here is Trump saluting while the national anthem was played, sung by January 6th rioters in prison as a way of honoring those who, why are they in prison? They tried to block the peaceful transfer of power violently by attacking the Capitol.
Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for the horribly and unfairly treated January 6th hostages.
Republicans, this is your party. Criminality out the wazoo, honoring those who attacked our democracy, calling them hostages. Talk about, by the way, disgracing, the national anthem. They were all up in arms about Kaepernick. This is such a horrible thing to do during the national, and now we're going to honor those who try to block the certification of a free and fair election by violently attacking the Capitol. That's disgracing the national anthem. Then here's Trump's son, Donald Trump Jr., interviewing Navarro shortly before he had to report to prison. I guess technically interviewing him, but at least in this clip, Jr.'s doing all the talking. And take a look at just how warped their world is.
Yeah, listen, I don't know that I want the presidency without the House and without the Senate, right? Because like it'll just be, never-ending impeachments. I'll get to do another 50 hours of congressional testimony for treason or whatever else they make up, like Adam Schiff made up last time. And but just so people understand like what kind of warrior you actually are, how important, like this, it's not like it's soundbite stuff. You're actually not nearly as concerned about the political persecution of their enemies based on lies, based on this, but literally already taking proactive steps. I mean, I wish every conservative had your balls, but more importantly, your heart. Like, you're going to prison for 5 months starting tomorrow. You're here talking about Maga principles for the next term and how to save our country. I think everyone watching has to understand that, because that's honestly, that's a lesson in patriotism right there. I mean, it's amazing to me. It truly is. And man, I wish we had 1 billion of you, not the people that we have in Washington, including the vast majority of those supposedly.
So Don Jr. called Navarro a patriot, because he's fighting for MAGA principles. Yeah, those MAGA principles include going to prison for refusing to comply with a lawful subpoena issued to him by Congress. And Don, remind me, what were they investigating? What was that subpoena about? What was the subject matter being investigated, looked into? Investigating the first attempt in American history to unlawfully disenfranchise millions of voters across the country and block the peaceful transfer of power and install someone as president for 4 more years despite losing a democratic election. Nothing is less patriotic and less American than that. Make sure you are subscribed to the YouTube channel. If you want more content, you want to get the daily bonus show, please don't let the video be over. I need more content. You got it. LukeBeasleyShow.com/membership to get that daily bonus show. I've had some people asking about merch. I was wearing my Luke Beasley Show shirt the other day. You can get that at LukeBeasleyMerch.com. And on screen right there, I'll put the second channel for algorithmic reasons. The shorts, there's a short function on YouTube, just quick little snack form of content, I don't know, is on that channel. Like I said, you can click there to subscribe to the second channel with short content.